The early 20th century. You can probably think of a lot of things that emerged during this time. World War I, rapid industrial growth, and the invention of the automobile. But one of the most influential developments didn't involve factories or assembly lines, that being the radio. What began as a scientific experiment soon became a revolutionary force that reshaped society. The radio is a historical example of revolution, reaction, and reform in history because of its effect on communication, entertainment, and technology. So let's tune in, adjust the dial, and see how the radio became a major turning point in history. Before the invention of the radio, long-distance communication was slow, limited, and often unreliable. News traveled primarily through newspapers, letters, and telegraphs. While the telegraph allowed messages to be sent faster than mail, it still relied on physical wires and trained operators, making communication expensive and inaccessible to many people. Information often arrived days or even weeks after the event occurred, meaning that the public rarely experienced news in real time. For most people, communication was local and delayed, and there was no efficient way to instantly reach large audiences. This limitation created a strong demand for a new form of communication that could overcome distance and speed, setting the stage for the radio's emergence. The story of the radio actually begins in the late 1800s. In the 1890s, inventors experimented with electromagnetic waves, building on earlier scientific discoveries. One of the more important figures in the radio's early development was Guglielmo Marconi, who successfully transmitted wireless signals across long distances, and is generally credited with the creation of the radio. Though the creation of the radio is not as straightforward as one might think.
No one person. No one person had this idea. Lots of people did. They all developed it in parallel, and everyone created a piece of the puzzle.
In 1901, Marconi sent the first transatlantic wireless signal, proving that communication could occur without physical wires. This innovation revolutionized communication by making it near instantaneous. At first, radio was not meant for entertainment or public use. During the early 1900s, wireless communication was primarily used for military and maritime purposes. Ships at sea relied on radio to communicate distress signals and receive information, dramatically improving safety. Radio played a crucial role during World War I, allowing faster military coordination and signaling the technology's strategical importance. Governments quickly realized that whoever controlled the radio communication held significant power, and this achievement marked a revolutionary moment in communication history. Following World War I, radio transitioned from a military tool to a form of mass communication. In the early 1920s, the first commercial radio stations began broadcasting music, news, and entertainment to the public. On November 2, 1920, KDKA, located in Pittsburgh, made history by airing the results of the U.S. presidential election between Warner G. Harding and James Cox. Unlike earlier wireless transmitters, which were point-to-point messages, KDKA's broadcasts were intended for the general public, allowing for anyone with a radio receiver to listen at the same time. This moment marked the birth of commercial radio broadcasting. Early KDKA broadcasts included news updates, music performances, weather reports, and sports scores, demonstrating the radio's potential as a mass communication medium. The success of this broadcast showed that radio could deliver real-time information to large audiences, encouraging the rapid growth of radio stations across the United States and helping launch the radio's golden age in the 1920s. As radios became cheaper and more widely available, ownership increased rapidly. By 1930, over 40% of American households owned a radio, and by the early 1940s, that number had risen to over 90%. This era, known as the golden age of radio, transformed daily lives. Families gathered around their radios to listen to comedy shows, serialized dramas, live sports, and music. The radio created shared national experience, allowing millions of people to hear the same programs at the same time. These programs created shared experiences, allowing people across the country to laugh, cry, and react together. In many ways, radio served as the first form of mass entertainment that united audiences nationwide, proof that good reception could bring people together. Technological reform also shaped radio's future. Improvements in sound quality, affordability, and portability expanded its reach. The development of FM radio improved clarity, which smaller and cheaper receivers made radios accessible for more people. Radio also played a crucial role during the Great Depression and World War II. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's fireside chats used radio to explain government policies and assure Americans during periods of economic hardship and global conflict. Hearing the president's voice created a sense of trust and unity, reinforcing radio's influence on politics, culture, and public morale. The 1950s marked a turning point for radio with the introduction of the television. As TV combined sound and visuals, it quickly became the dominant form of household entertainment. Many believed radio would become obsolete. By the late 1950s, television ownership in the United States surpassed radio and became the primary source of entertainment.
Two things. As I mentioned before, the internet. The second thing I would say is change in the way radio broadcasting is owned and who owns it in the United States.
However, the radio did not disappear, it adapted. During the 1950s and 60s, radio shifted towards music-based programming, particularly with the rise of rock and roll. The development of FM radio improved sound quality, making it ideal for music broadcasting. In the 1970s and 80s, FM radio dominated the industry, while talk radio, call-in shows, and local programming became increasingly popular. In the 1990s and 2000s, radio faced new challenges from digital media, including CDs, MP3s, and internet streaming. Once again, radio evolved. Satellite radio, online stations, and podcasts expanded how audio content could be delivered. Today, despite competition from streaming platforms, over 80% of Americans still listen to radio each week, often in cars, on smartphones, or through digital streams. Radio's ability to adapt demonstrates its long-term resilience and relevance. Today, traditional radio stations have begun online streaming, proving that radio could even survive in the digital age. And rather than disappearing, radio simply evolved alongside new media. Radio fundamentally revolutionized communication by allowing information to travel instantly across vast distances. As previously stated, before radio, news spread slowly through newspapers, letters, or telegraphs. With the development of wireless communication in the late 1800s and early 1900s, especially Marconi's 1901 transatlantic transmission, messages could be sent without physical wires. This breakthrough transformed communication from delayed and localized to immediate and widespread. During World War I, radio further improved its revolutionary value by improving military coordination and maritime safety, showing that rapid communication could save lives and influence global events. However, this new power also caused reaction. Governments and citizens became concerned about misinformation, propaganda, and who controlled the airwaves. Radio broadcasts during World War II demonstrated how easily communication could be used to shape public opinion, sometimes through manipulation. In response, reform followed. Governments introduced broadcasting regulations, licensing systems, and public interest standards to manage frequencies and ensure responsible communication. One of these reforms included the Fairness Doctrine, a policy that required broadcasters to provide each side of an argument when discussing topics like politics. However, this policy is no longer in effect as of 2011. These reforms allowed radio to continue serving as a reliable source of news, emergency alerts, and public information, even as new media emerged. Radio also revolutionized entertainment by bringing music, news, and storytelling directly into people's homes. During the golden age of radio, millions of listeners tuned in simultaneously. Radio made entertainment more accessible and affordable, especially during the Great Depression when many families could not afford other forms of leisure. Many broadcasters were inventing their own way of broadcasting, like Graham McName, who created play-by-play broadcasting during the 1924 World Series, or Barry Gray, who made significant contributions to talk radio and call-in shows. This revolution sparked reform from the existing entertainment industries. Over time, reform reshaped the industry. Musicians began using radio as a promotional tool, advertisers sponsored programs, and new formats emerged. When television rose in the 1950s, radio reformed again, proving its ability to adapt by shifting towards music-focused programming. Technologically, radio represented a major revolution by introducing mass broadcasting and wireless transmission. Early experiments with electromagnetic waves led to practical radio systems that allowed one signal to reach thousands, or even millions, of people at once. This innovation laid the groundwork for future technologies, including television, satellite communication, and digital streaming. The development of commercial broadcasting stations in the 1920s demonstrated how technology could connect entire nations through sound alone. As technology advanced, radio faced continued reaction. New inventions such as the television, CDs, and internet streaming challenged radio's relevance. Each time, critics predicted radio's decline. And yet, radio consistently reformed itself through technological adaptation. The introduction of FM radio improved sound quality, portable radios expanded accessibility, and digital streaming allowed radios to exist online and on mobile devices. Even in the 21st century, radio remains widely used, demonstrating the technological reform that can sustain innovation over time. And now, we've reached the end of our broadcast. From experimental signals to a global communication network, radio reshaped the world through revolution, reaction, and reform. It changed how people communicated, how they were entertained, and how technology shaped daily life. So remember, if you're listening for breaking news or your favorite song, don't forget to tune on in.